This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast, where each and every week we break down the good, the bad, and the awesome of all things wrestling video games. My name is George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash, and today we are playing Online Pro Wrestling Champion of the Network. Will it get a rating of Play It Forever,
Woo!
or Future Endeavor?
You're fired!
We also discuss your favorite games to play bundled up during a snowstorm, and some more Fight Forever updates.
And as always, guys, please subscribe and leave a 5-star rating and a review for this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen to your podcast, and follow along on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. And don't forget, you can get early and ad-free access to this podcast, show notes, and a whole lot more if you join our Patreon at patreon.com/GameMarksPod. Johnny Clash, man, how we doing? Let's get this out of the way. How you feeling? You've got a little bit of the COVID happening right now.
I got the Rona. So ironically, I got it. It has to be I got it at World's End, the AEW pay-per-view. Ironically named for how I feel. A whole bunch of mouth breathers sitting around me watching a wrestling show. Me, my brother-in-law, we both got it. The other two did not get it. I don't know how, but we both ended up with it. It's about day 5 or 6 right now. I don't really know.
Okay.
As we're recording. So I'm a little bit better. I'm a little just nasally. I got the cough drops in the mouth. Not like the time I edited out your cough drops from a whole episode. See, now that I do commentary at Cap, I need cough drops because your mouth gets so dry while you're talking. And sometimes
you don't do the in the water bottle trick?
No, I used to do that as a singer. But sometimes I do commentary alone, so you need cough drops because you're constantly going. So now I just I tuck them in in here.
Hey, when you're doing commentary alone?
Yeah. I have. You don't answer.
It's one time. It's one time.
I just tuck them in my my lip here, and then when you swallow, you just get some cough drop, and it works pretty well. So that's where I'm at. It's been a rough couple days, but I think the worst is over, and you could have the best of me.
Well, and hey, Happy New Year to you, John, and to everyone else that's out there. It's the first episode of the new year, right? No, technically it's the second. It's the first one that we're recording.
Yeah,
since the new year, but technically,
we had a nice Q&A last week. Set the tone, set the stage for the new year. Get everybody ready. Get all hyped. Get our voices all ready for me to just have COVID and not have a voice. So here we are.
We are coming out swinging with one of the weirdest yet fun games we've ever played. But before we get into that, let's talk about this Fight Forever media scrum.
Yeah, so speaking of World's End, after Tony Khan does his little media scrum, which he's oh so famous for, and we all know how those usually go, but someone did ask about Fight Forever, and they asked about the support, when you're going to see players, if they're going to go to a console again. So basically he said they're going to keep supporting Fight Forever for he said really, really long time. Like that verbatim, he said really long time. So I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. He also said they sold a ton of copies over the holidays. I mean, who are we to judge?
Possible.
We don't really know. He might just pull that out of his ass. He's going to keep adding DLC and feature more stars. Someday, he's open to having a new console game, which, as far as we knew from the beginning, this would be a long-running game. But that still kind of seems to be what we're going with here. So for the foreseeable future, they're going to keep Fight Forever going, keep it updated. I don't think it's the worst thing if they revisit the business model of the game. We've blasted this to all hell, how we hate the DLC, we hate the seasons, the battle pass, and how it's structured.
It's not hating DLC, it's the model of the DLC.
Well, if they just too much
DLC.
If they find a way to structure it better, maybe like Tony Storm's coming out. Maybe Tony Storm's 99 cents.
Yeah.
Maybe something like that.
Or like a store. Warzone has a store where you can buy stuff. It's not It's not
SmackDown Mall.
yeah, and it's not that you have to buy full DLC packs. Like, make it so that if you wanted to buy, you know, you
I mean,
don't have to
kind
buy
of like Fire Pro World for the PC.
well, that's
when
more
you-
like you're downloading skins, though.
No, when you get Fire Pro World for the PC, it is bare bones unless you get the New Japan pack.
That's true.
Then you pick New Japan. Then you could pick the Stardom. And
It's kind of like the game that we're playing today, honestly.
yeah. So I don't know. Will you speculate upon season 3 and the rumors of wrestlers included being Saraya, Copeland, and Swerve? That would be awesome. That's
a
Soups in
great
our chat.
pack.
That would be a great pack. Like Adam Copeland just being in the game, like would make me want to play the game more. But I will say this. I've been playing the game a little bit more recently because I was playing Fortnite on stream the other night. And there's just something with playing on controller when I'm through the PC that doesn't work well. And sometimes I don't feel like playing on the mouse and keyboard because I'm lazy or I'm like tired and I have to think about it, that I just don't want to play. So I switched to Fight Forever and I was having fun playing it. Like, it's actually like a lot of fun, but finding like an online match and all that stuff was really just the downfall. So
I messaged you the other day and said, I think that it would be funny if we recorded content that, you know, maybe we'll do a stream on your YouTube channel and on the podcast YouTube channel, and we'll drop into a couple of games of Stadium Stampede and see how we do.
yeah, because you could do duos and squads and all that now.
I think that would be fun.
Yeah, but that's where Fight Forever's at. Where, you know, we'll keep you updated throughout the year, throughout the next few years. We'll see how long this lasts, what happens with it. I don't know.
I can't wait to full on cover the first year of the game. I'm like very excited about it.
Yeah, that's true. Once a year hits, I guess we could start covering it and do updates here and there. We said we would do that with Retromania, but we never got season 2, so
yeah,
remains to be seen. But all right, we are here to talk about online pro wrestling, champion of the network. Are you ready? Are your goggles on? I'm going to probably take the deep dive with my clothes on because I'm still got the cold sweats and the chills. So
this is up there with one of the longer wrestling games titles that we've played. It's up there, but yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's take that deep dive. Guys, if you want your beard to be soft and smell great, then you need Mad Cat Beard Care. Their products are all natural and made to order with vitamins and natural oils to moisturize your skin and to help make your beard healthy and strong.
Our exclusive scent, Play It Forever, is a blood orange, black clove, and vanilla scented beard balm or beard oil that can make your beard have a rich but not overpowering scent. Plus, a portion from their sales go towards finding care for stray cats, covering their medical bills and finding them safe places and forever homes.
Use code GameMarks to save yourself 15% when you place an order over at madcatbeardcare.com. That's 15% off with code GameMarks. And remember, the Mad Cat makes a happy beard. All right, the deep dive is brought to you by our friends over at Mad Cat Beard Care. Make sure to use code GameMarks to save yourself 15% over at madcatbeardcare.com. Online pro wrestling champion of the network was released May 6th, 2004 for the PS2, developed by Ukes and other games in the wrestling sphere in 2004. You've got WWE Day of Reckoning, WWE Survivor Series, WWE SmackDown vs. Raw, Fire Pro Wrestling Z, Rumble Roses, Backyard Wrestling 2, King of Coliseum 2, and Showdown Legends of Wrestling.
It's a really good year.
A lot of PS2 titles.
Yeah, and I mean, this included, to say it's basically cut and dry. It's SmackDown Shut Your Mouth.
Yeah.
The game that we're playing today.
It's all the same match types and everything.
So when you have SmackDown versus Raw coming out, that's what, 2 generations after this? Because it's Shut Your Mouth, Here Comes the Pain, then SmackDown versus Raw, right?
Yeah.
So, okay. Day of Reckoning, firing on all cylinders. Survivor Series, surprisingly good Game Boy Advance game. But then just also the King of Coliseum, Backyard Wrestling 2, Rumble Roses, Fire Pro Z, Showdown. It's always good to see games that aren't main WWE, WCW, whatever titles coming out this year. And in 2004, this was pretty big. I feel like you go through those years where you get these off titles, and a lot of them are good. But then you'll get like, oh, in 2018, all that came out was WWE 2K, like something like that. But now I think, like currently, as of what, 2-3 years ago, we're back to having this.
So this game reminds me of another game that we played on the podcast. I think I actually mentioned it either during the playthrough or before we got started. Is that it reminds me of that simple 1600 series where it's just like, hey, we took this wrestling game and we redid the menus, we reskinned the wrestlers, but like the core gameplay mechanics and like all of the move sets and stuff are there, but it's just kind of like a different coat of paint on all the wrestlers, and they all have kind of funny names that either sound like weird generic like flea market style wrestlers. Yeah. Like this game reminds me of, you remember those like wrestling packs that you would pick up at like a flea market that were like, you know, it was like 3 wrestlers for like $1 or anything like that. Like I would imagine like if they made a game of those figures, it's this.
Yeah, like little bootlegs.
Yeah.
That just
like where the plastic is really thin and
whatever piece of whatever they could just put together and make a guy.
Yeah, it's like very much so like it's just like, oh, this is a G.I. Joe figure, but we just painted trunks on him and now it's a wrestler.
Well, this is something Ukes like notoriously always did.
Yeah. Like
they just reskinned games, and I think there was a lot of issue with WWE in this. Like they did Wrestle Kingdom as well, which is Day of Reckoning. So I mean, while they own, I guess, the engine, do they really own? I don't know. I don't know.
I was just saying, I guess you own the engine, but not the IPs of the wrestlers. So like, that's why you have people like the Mac, I think is one of the people. Like it's names that are close to other wrestlers, but not exactly. Like what did we say? The Stone Cold guy was Bronco Williams.
Yeah, Bronco something, but
like looks like a very generic-esque version of Stone Cold. Has hair, but it's got, you know, the vest and the
Bronco Williams,
the boots and the jean shorts. Like it looks like a Wish Temu version of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
But then some of them are just really out there. The way the wrestlers look, it's a little crazy.
Oh yeah, there's someone that we couldn't figure out who it was. It looked like it had the moveset of someone like Tajiri, but it had like a Beatles haircut. It was very odd.
So it's called online pro wrestling because it heavily featured online tournaments and online gameplay, much like, I guess, you know, the SmackDown vs. Raws did later, but this was just an older game that used that. It used the FEEGA, FEEGA service for their games. Now, I wasn't really sure what this was, but upon looking now, it looks like Final Fantasy 11 and a few others also use that.
Okay.
So I'm going to assume it's a Japanese service. Kind of like, what was the one all the WWE games used?
GameSpy?
GameSpy, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what that is about, why it's called Online Pro Wrestling. It features a revamped grappling system that combines traditional mechanics with the series' signature fast-paced gameplay. Now, while it is exactly SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, it does feel a bit faster and quicker, and strikes happen quicker. You roll out of a strike, you hit another strike, you're into.
What did we just say that about recently? It was a game that we played in the last couple of weeks. It feels definitely like this game,
Kaneko-Man,
but it's faster. Like there was something that was. What was it? Let me
dig through that. So it also, you could take whoever, whether it's The Rock, whether it's Stone Cold. There is a ton of
Virtual
matches.
Pro Wrestling, BBW 64.
Yeah.
Felt like WCW, NWO World Tour, but was like faster paced at certain points.
Right. So you have your exhibitions, which are singles and tags, but within there, you also have cage matches. You have 3-ways, 4-ways, ladder matches, TLC, basically everything that was in Shut Your Mouth is in here, but it's behind like a translation barrier that you have to use Google Translate to figure out. So we kind of surprised ourselves when we played a few. Check it out on our YouTube. And it plays just like those games you know and love. We didn't encounter any glitches. We didn't encounter anything that was just so off that made us like not want to play. You can select different like backgrounds and where you're wrestling. Like we somehow ended up in a park, like with trees around us and like a few people watching.
Yeah. So this was the thing that took a second to figure out. You can select your arenas, and your arenas will change the ring mats that you can have. So there's like the generic colored ones, there's the logo of the game, and then depending on what arena you're in, there are select ring mats for the arena that you pick. Which is cool. It's just you pick, from 5 arenas, you pick from 5 ring mats, but they have specific canvases to each arena. It's a little extra.
Yeah, and SmackDown, especially the earlier ones, were notorious for having really bad arenas, I guess you could say, because it was only like Raw and SmackDown and then a generic arena, but you just changed the pay-per-view logo in the middle of the ring.
Yeah.
So it's kind of there, but kind of not.
I'll say I feel like arenas and crowds were the last things that really got love. But then when they got love, it was like, wow, this really got kicked up into high gear.
Yeah. I think Shut Your Mouth did have actual arenas though. But the arena within this game itself kind of reminded me of like the Wrestle Kingdoms and what was that? King of Colosseum and all that. Like it was just a really nice looking big stage, lights shining everywhere. It was actually pretty cool.
I'm like struggling to find negative things to say about this game, strictly from the fact that it's built on a game that we both liked. Like that's the hard thing. Is it kind of weird that the wrestling movesets are the movesets of like popular WWE guys at the time, and they're just kind of very generic looking people? Yeah, it's a little odd to just see a guy that kind of looks like Stone Cold do a stunner and like,
But we're so used to that with all the Fire Pros and all that.
Oh, I was even say that. Like, how many times have you made a wrestler in an N64 game and you give them the stunner as their finisher, or you change Stone Cold's costume or something, and like, oh, like it's not. If you bought, I think there's a difference between buying a game that does it and then buying a game that lets you, the owner, do it. I don't know, but it's not a negative thing for me. I like it. I think it's kind of cool. I actually was like more excited to go through and be like, okay, so this guy's supposed to be, the Undertaker. What does this guy look like? Like this guy is like 3rd on the roster sheet, but is like weird Beatles Tajiri guy and has like a weird combination moveset of like all of the kicks, but also looks like he wouldn't be able to do any of those things because he like towers over everyone else in the ring. Like you played a guy that looked like Test, but also looked like he tripped in a paint factory and had like the most colorful wrestling gear I've ever seen. But like, it's cool. Like those things are fun to me. Like, oh, like what creative way did they find to make it look like this person, but not look like this person?
Did I ever tell you about my mashup Stone Cold and SmackDown? I probably did in the episode for SmackDown or SmackDown 2.
I don't know.
But
I feel like I would remember that.
Throughout whatever story mode, whatever, you unlock Stone Cold with like the camo hat, the camo shirt, but they didn't give you like a bottom for it, but you just swapped parts anyway. So I remember like trying to do like the shorts that he used to wear, but the only one that had shorts was like a female. So he had, like, these little legs, and I was like, I can't do that. So
you wouldn't swap clothing parts. You would swap like the whole torso. Oh man, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so I gave him like whoever had generic jeans on with the new, but then you couldn't use like actual finishers until you unlock them for a created
Yeah.
superstar. So while I couldn't edit Stone Cold, this new Stone Cold I made had a snapmare as a finisher because it was the closest I could get. And it would be like they didn't care what your finisher was, and there was no like parameters. So it'd be like snapmare KO. It was so like anticlimactic. But speaking of finishers and editing and all that, you can edit your wrestler in here, which is pretty cool. So if you do want it to look a little bit more like Stone Cold, be our guest. You could do that, make your own guy. But then there's also motion edit where you could do a victory, you could do taunts, and you could edit all of that for the wrestlers as well, their entrances and everything.
Huh. I like. Do you remember what year they? Let me see. Do you remember what year, off the top of your head, they introduced like create a entrance?
No clue.
See, it's got to be close. It's got to be close because, or I'm trying to think of when they introduced the generic style ones, because it used to be just you pick Stone Cold or you pick Triple H or whatever, and then there was the ones where like it would be like it looks like it's the Undertaker's entrance, but the guy would drop the bike or fall off the bike, or like there was one where pyros would go off and then you would be standing on a pyro and get like launched into the ring, and like that was your entrance. Like that generation, it's around this generation, but like, oh my god, just comical entrances. Those were like my favorite part of the edit suite of like this generation of games.
Yeah, that was so much fun. But all right, I'm going to tag you in here because I could barely breathe right now.
Yeah,
and
I'll take us through this roster.
Take the roster, and then we're going to take a break so I can blow my nose.
All right, your roster for online pro wrestling is The Mac, Bronco Williams, Shinbashi Motoya, Great Nitro, Ushu Geki, Sazanami Tatsuo, Bomber Komoda, Ganryu Raizaburo, Mishima Harumitsu, Godai Kenji, Flash Visor, Aniki Gishin, Giant Andes, which I guess that's Andre the Giant, Titan Bumper, Rob Check, Amethyst Beast, Tawara Kyoko, Vincent McKenzie, on Proishi, King LLL, Gobber, Geronimo, Shishimaru, Dynamite Aya, Takumi, Texas Mask, Death King number 8, Vader Moon, Red Phalanx, Lorenzo, Delta Z, and Zombie.
Delta Z and Zombie were pretty cool. Especially Delta Z. Moveset, incredible.
I think this roster is harder to read than any of the Fire Pros that we've done because they're made up names.
Yeah, everything was a spinneroonie for Delta Z. But let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the cover art.
All right, so let's talk about this cover art and the art style of the game as a whole. I think that this is a simple but clean cover to a game. I it's got that very stereotypical flame font that you see from a lot of wrestling games from this era, and it's got a wrestling ring. It's kind of hard to not know what it is when there's a giant wrestling ring on the cover of the game.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of All-Star Pro Wrestling a little bit, just not as dark.
Yeah,
that's the game I was thinking of when I was talking about the entrance and how nice the stage was. All-Star Pro Wrestling.
I will say this, going back to when you because you brought up the entrance stage, I think something that is better about this one than the other games, yes, the presentation, the pyro, all that stuff looks cool. How they chose to like pull the camera back a little bit. Like I feel like in a lot of the like this generation of game, like it's like in on the wrestler. Like look at the wrestler's face. Look at how great these graphics are for the time. Like we're so proud of how this looks. Where this, I feel like they kind of just like, yeah, the wrestlers look cool, but that's not like the selling point because they're not meant to look like specific people. We're going to pull the camera back so you can see more of the arena because that's really like, it's the same arena that you see on the cover of the game. They kind of pulled the camera back and we're just like, all right, spend a little more time on this.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think the cover, everything you need to know. Ukes, which is if you're a wrestling fan, especially then,
You
that's
know.
that's your stamp of approval, saying it's going to be a pretty good game. Online tells you that right there. Now, SmackDown versus Raw, was that the first with online play?
Oh,
Yeah, online, broadband only, guys. I remember clipping my Ethernet into the back of my PS Slim and playing it. Yeah, so this is where we're at right now. So that's really cool. The back cover, I don't even want to get into. It's 3 screenshots of wrestler edit, a whole bunch of text, a
it's
move,
so much text.
and a whole bunch of text. It's just text on top of text on top of text on top of text.
It tells you how many memory card blocks it's going to take up, and that's
Yeah.
man, it's a lot of text. It's 3 screenshots. I am curious to know. I want to do the quick translate just to see what that headline is on top.
By all means.
It says, "All fighting spirits come together here. World's first real-time high-speed online professional wrestling game." And then the 3 screenshots say, with over 15,000 moves and over 4,500 parts, including, I don't know what that's supposed to say, including, oh, you can become any wrestler you want. The second screenshot says, improve your mind, skill, and body with over 50 different matchmaking types and 4 venues.
That's pretty good. Pretty
And then
good.
the last screenshot says, connect online and see nationwide. Connect online and play with friends across the country.
Yeah, I wonder if there was like a leaderboard and all that stuff. I guess we'll never know unless we meet someone who has played this game. Or it's very hard to research this game. You
I
search
feel like all these offshoot games always are like this Simple 1500 series. Like they're offshoots of already like well-established popular games with the same kind of features.
Yeah, but even just searching online pro wrestling is so generic.
That's true.
That,
That's very
like,
true.
Unless you put it in quotes or you get like the actual thing. I don't know. It's very hard to do. But let's get into the art style and the graphics here. We kind of touched on how the wrestlers looked, the arenas, everything, the weapons, the crowd. It all kind of just looks like a SmackDown game, very polygon-y. The stage was, to me, the most standout part. The HUD resembled SmackDown, but a little less and a little more out of the way. It's up top.
Because
It's
you don't get
darker.
the big WWE logos every time you get a.
Yeah, well, the
still
early
a finish.
SmackDown games, it was just like a little ball, a little green ball.
It was a little bit.
So you get a
is this
little
where they
blue
made the
on
change,
this
or maybe
one.
it was before. I don't remember.
What?
I heard what you said.
It-
I don't know if it was this game or after where they replaced the ball with the WWE logo.
Yeah, that was just always too much. So in this one, you get the ball.
It in and spun and.
And when you get the finisher, it flashes on the HUD that it's ready to go. And all you got to do is press that triangle button and you're off.
What was a special attack, special move, special something
Yeah.
when you hit it?
So what I didn't like was the way the outside of the ring looked. Like SmackDown looked good. It had the barricades. It had the floor. I get it. That look is very unique to WWE. Like if you go to another wrestling show, they're not going to have something that looks like that, especially the barricades where they're padded and they're one piece. They're not just like shitty guardrails. This one, it just had like weird square, rectangle-y, polygon-y guardrails and those weird Japanese mats that don't exist in real life, but every video game uses.
I mean, you're right.
It's just some weird graphical style that we've seen so many times for like ring mats, but that's not what they ever looked like. I don't know.
There's some really interesting choices that they made, and then there's some really like clever and creative ones. Like, we talked about it a bunch already, but how they got around WWE's IP to make their own wrestlers. That's kind of fun. It's kind of interesting. Kind of makes you want to see what everyone looks like, and then try to figure out who they're supposed to be. The creative suite is what you would expect from create a wrestler in this game.
Looks like a unicorn threw up on most of these wrestlers.
Yeah, John mentioned it before. It's a little polygony, compared to today's graphics. yeah, the wrestlers look a little blocky and have a lot of sharp edges. But if you put it in the context of what this game is based on, it's pretty good for the time.
One thing that these games did very well that current games need to kind of take a page out of was the transparency of either the ring ropes, the ladder, anything that comes in front of the screen. The steel cage just goes transparent or disappears completely so you could see what's going on in the ring.
Oh, God, I love that.
There are a lot of games now, the WWE games. I don't know. I'm sure Fight Forever does it with like the ladder and stuff when you're
Even
too
Fire
in the way.
Pro does it with the cage.
Fire Pro, it just gets in the way. You got to know, not that you don't know what you're doing, because you do, because you can still see, but it's just distracting.
Yeah, well, okay. So I get it and I don't. When you're watching a cage match on TV, there's not, you see the cage. So like if they want to make it like
They got
super
the little
true to what
holes
you
now.
see on the TV. Yeah, but if they want to see where, I mean, now they have cameras in the cage, like people walking around because it's crazy. But yeah, it's that balance of, are you going for super realism or are you going for the most I don't know, enjoyable, less distracting style of gameplay, which is like, to me, yeah, take the cage, like that front hard cam section or whatever, whatever the camera is, take that section of the cage away unless someone's interacting with it, because yeah, it's just, no, I think No Mercy like is one of the worst offenders, because there's a point where like it would start to fade, but then if it was like caught in this weird spot, it would like flicker in and out.
Yeah,
which
that was
like,
bad.
oh, that was so annoying. But
Well, Soups in the chat just said Fight Forever does it with weapons in your hand, and that's a bit much. But yeah, that is a bit much.
yeah, that's a lot.
You don't need that to happen. All right. But I was going to hit you with a did you know right here, but as we know, this game this is all we know about it. So there's no anything unique about it.
Did you know that there's no did you know?
There's no did you know. I'm going to check eBay real quick, because this is where it would be. All right. There's a few. I see a low one of $9 and then a new sealed version for $39. So not too bad. There's also just not many before it starts getting into 2Ks and Fire Pros. So that's really it. It is bundled here with, oh, this is actually a pretty damn good pack. It's got all the All-Star Pro Wrestlings, 1, 2, 3, both Wrestle Kingdoms, and this game for only $149.
That's actually a pretty good.
That's pretty good if I had a working
pretty good
PS2.
packing, yeah. It's a pretty good bundle
Soups.
of games.
Get on that.
There you go.
All right. Let's get into some ratings and reviews here. Now, the game FAQ user rating, like we use for most Japanese games, unfortunately, this one only had like 4 ratings on it, but it's just something to go off still. The user average is a 4 out of 5 stars. The difficulty, also 4 out of 5 stars, which I think I disagree with. And the length of hours played is a 2 out of 5.
Yeah, I don't think it's that tough. Maybe it's because we're super familiar with the series, but I don't think, even having not played Shut Your Mouth in a long time, to come back and play this, well, the hardest thing is breaking yourself of the 2K controls.
I think the hardest part is breaking myself of like the AKI controls.
Oh,
Well, that's what we kind of spoke about last week during the Q&A. Someone asked about the nostalgia of the AKI games. What's the next trend going to be?
unless I'm holding that N64 controller, I don't, like, it doesn't affect me.
This is why I would love to see the SmackDown games and style return. It's just so simple and easy. That's it. Like, we just picked it up, like we played it yesterday and we were able to play it again. And I think kind of up through Here Comes the Pain, it's the same way. I think SmackDown vs. Raw is a little upgraded, and it goes obviously from there all the way up to now. But yeah, I mean, SmackDown 1, 2, they're all close. They're really close. Go check our history ofs to see what's different with the cages and the ladders and all that.
I'd say it's that generation of, like, you know, SmackDown 1 and 2 come out within the same year. It's only a couple months before the next one comes out, and like then there's like with each game, it starts to become a little bit more space till we get like to the yearly release. But those first 3 or 4 games, it's just, hey, this is working. Here's something different. Hey, this is working. We added more stuff, so it's a little bit more different. It's a little bit more different, and now it's like we have this great template that we can just still build on. And man, that one of the things that we talked about so much in our gameplay is just like how, I think we even mentioned it when we did the regular episodes for the main games, was that how satisfying the strikes are to hit. Kicks, punches, anything off the top rope. You know, those are the most satisfying. Too. Yeah, most satisfying parts of the game. I mean, a lot of the grapples and the specials look cool, but strikes, like running strikes off the top, you know, those are very satisfying because there's full animations behind them.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, just one of the most satisfying games, and just that sound of like that high kick, the roundhouse to the back of the head, just whoosh, and you're just down on the ground. It's the best. Or like a big clothesline.
Yeah, and with that slow motion, like 360 cam when they hit some of the like when you hit your special, that's cool.
Yeah, honestly, like this gives me more nostalgia than like some of the AKI games, like hitting those moves and stuff. But
yeah,
that's me.
All right,
but
shall we get into the actual, real, most important rating according to this podcast?
Let's get into the butts.
Our rating, because now it's time to rate the game.
The game!
All right, let's get this over with, Johnny Clash, because I know
I'm dying.
I'm not feeling too great. Yeah. Will you play it forever?
Woo!
Or future endeavor?
You're fired!
I didn't think I would do this, but it's a play it forever.
Woo!
I didn't expect this game to be the way it was. Now, you hear a SmackDown reskin and you're like, okay, I'm intrigued. I didn't expect it to be not glitchy, actually be fun. It also, to think it's an online game, so it had to be like pretty well polished.
Yeah.
Or else no one would be playing. You'd enter a match with someone and get dropped, and I mean, it could have been that way anyway. We don't really know. I enjoyed it. Bring me all the old SmackDown games. I want to play them all. So play it forever.
Hell yes.
Now, George, what say you?
I'm right there with you. I really just thought that we were going to play this game, and I was like, why would I play this game? I'll just play regular Shut Your Mouth. But no, it's just something fun and nostalgic about this game, and I enjoyed it. And I guess because they're more generic wrestlers, it felt like it was a different game. So with that, I'm inclined to agree with you. Give it an old double piff, the first double piff of the new year.
Hey,
Woo!
love a good double piff.
All right. Well, with that, John, are you ready to get into this week's Soft Lock?
Soft Lock.
All right, this Soft Lock is brought to you by Dubby. Use code GameMarks to save yourself 10% over at dubby.gg. And the Soft Lock is a segment where one of our Mega Marks from our Patreon asks us a question, gives us a topic to debate. It's a question of the week with a fancy name, and this week it comes from our best bitch, the Elder Spork. That's it. He's the best batch promotions, and he is our best bitch, and that's how that works. The Elder Spork would like to know, since the Northeast is supposed to be getting snow this weekend, what is our favorite perfect snow day game? Oh, actually, no. He wants to know what the perfect snow day game session setup is. Snacks, game, the whole vibe. What are you going for?
Oh, man.
I had one that jumped out immediately to me.
Go for it.
So, like, right before the pandemic, during the pandemic, like Pokemon games like would come out, and then they would get Pokemon. They would get released, and then it became like we play this in the wintertime. Like you bundle up. And then, like,
Pokemon's a holiday game.
oh, snap. You telling me that are all Pokemon games Christmas games?
I mean, by our standards, apparently.
No, but yeah, for me, that's what I associate with like a snowy game, like running around, catching Pokemon, things like that. Like that to me is what a good like snow day game is.
It just kind of reminds me of like being home from college, like on that long break, like in the winter.
Or Call of Duty.
Yeah, like you wake up, you're in your sweatpants, you maybe like just chill all day, eat snacks like Doritos. You're playing Call of Duty with your friends. But there would be some times where I would play like the SmackDowns or like the NHLs like the entire day. And then at night, everyone would get on Call of Duty or Gears of War, and that would be the whole night. And then the next day, you do it all again. Maybe the next day then, you guys like actually hang out and meet up. But once like 9, 10 o'clock rolls around, you guys are like, hey, you want to call it quits and go home and jump on Xbox? And we're like, yeah, okay, let's do that. Like that was just the best.
I love that. Was my second answer was Call of Duty.
Man, I'd like a box of Cheez-Its or something.
I'm thinking like nice hot chocolate.
I did that last night.
Yeah.
So crazy. The only thing I cannot taste is coffee. And it's my one true love.
I'm sorry.
Like it just tastes like bitter water.
I'm sorry.
Like the hot chocolate tasted fine. And salt seems to be amplified.
Oh.
Which is really weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, knock on wood, this isn't something that stays.
I know. I don't know what I would do without my coffee.
Got to switch to tea.
No, I'm drinking it anyway. I would never switch to tea. Come on. What would be the point?
It's got more caffeine than coffee.
I don't like it.
Find a tea. Just like there's a million different kinds of coffee. There's a million different kinds of tea.
God.
All right. Well, would
George
you like
the tea advocate?
I am all for caffeine. Let us know on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. What is your perfect wintry snow day gaming setup? What are you eating? What are you playing? You got a big cozy blanket on. Let us know. John, what are we playing next week on the podcast?
All right. Are you ready for this one?
No, I'm not, because I don't know how we're playing it, but we'll figure it out.
From the Commodore 64, Sergeant Slaughter's Mat Wars.
You
better start trying now.
Yeah, I know.
Now I know someone who owns the game sealed. His name is Smart Mark Sterling.
Oh yeah.
I think the most we can get is at least a few pictures out of him, maybe.
Like I want to play the game. It's the Commodore 64 for some reason. It's so hard to get to emulate properly. And I know that it's possible because I did it once on the podcast. But for some reason, after
a few times.
For some reason, like it's the most, is finicky the right word? It's the most problematic emulator to work.
I believe in you.
I
believe in you.
I appreciate that. All right. Well, if you want to see how the struggle goes sometimes when we try to emulate games on this podcast, you can go over to youtube.com/GameMarksPodcast. It's got our weekly playthroughs and a whole lot more. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for all of our shirt designs. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for early and ad-free access to this show. Wow. Access to show notes, live recordings, and a whole lot more at Game Marks Pod on all forms of social media. And please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and leave us a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen to your podcast. It really does help us out. And if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, you can reach out to us at GameMarksPod@gmail.com. I agree, Soups. That was a very, very crisp ring that Clash got out of that bell. Johnny Clash, do that thing.
Game over, Marks.
Marks podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks podcast every single Monday.